Hi, everyone. Okay, so now we have discussed the ABT and learned a bit about that and practiced a bit. And you've learned about visuals. So we're starting to put together these elements of what makes a good story. And now we're going to discuss a process that actually helps you put these elements together. So first of all, what is a storyboard? So a storyboard is just a visual representation of how a story plays out, scene by scene. So a storyboard provides a map to put all the elements of your story together. It puts the narrative, which we're using the narrative structure, the ABT, the visuals, and John just talked to you about some important elements of visuals, and delivery. And Brian Palermo will be working with you on the delivery connections, how to connect with your audience through emotional connections and how you present yourself. So this is the map, this is your guide that you can use to make a video, but it can also be used for presentations as well, or it can even be used for papers. It's not anything that you are putting a narrative and visuals and delivery together to communicate. Okay, so one of the steps that you'll be doing pretty soon, I believe, is looking at topics within Pisces and problems that exist and writing an ABT and working in groups to do that. So you will have an ABT, hopefully a well-constructed one that is a solid, good, single focus problem that you can build your story on. And once you have that ABT, then you're going to start building your storyboard. And in the very simplest template, you have your setup for your story. This is your and. Remember, this is your heaven. This is where no problems want to exist. And this is where you want to connect with your audience. What is relevant? What's the things that they care about and want to hear? For instance, we all love the ocean and we want it to be a great experience when we're out on the beach. Or we all are behind Pisces. They do wonderful work. We want to build a good society, whatever that setup is going to be. And then the next frames are going to be your problem, right? And and then so forth with the therefore. So this is just storyboarding your ABT. So what does that look like? Well, here is a really simple example of what that could look like. There's a fish, and it's important to nature, and it's important to people. But this thing is in trouble because of this problem. Therefore, we have this solution. If this solution can be done, then this thing will be restored. Very, very basic ABT. But that's important for your storyboard. You don't want to make it complicated. You want to make it concise and compelling. And as you can see in each of these frames, I have put together just an idea for what the visuals could be. We'll talk more about that in just a minute. But first, we're going to work on the content for our narrative structure. So you have these 3 frames. It could be 4 frames. It could, whatever you feel that it's important to have. But when you look at your ABT, there's this, my first part of my ABT and setup was there is this fish. Well, there's lots of things I can say about this fish. So I just brainstorm, list all these specifics. These are the facts. These are what I think would be interesting, or your group would think would be interesting. Just list all those specifics. But you can't say all those things in a short video. You can say those things, but it might be a very long video, and it might be a bit boring for your audience. So just brainstorm all those key elements or key moments in your story. Having this list just makes it easier to decide what you want to include. Because your next step then is to choose what exact information will set up your story and will hook your audience, right? You want to select those specifics that are most interesting and relevant to your specific audience. So in my example, I have bolded those items, those statements, those specifics that I think are going to be most relevant for my audience. Right? So now I have a layout of the text. I have a general idea of what's going to be said for my setup. And then I build that, right? I have my text. Now I need to decide what visual is going to really help me amplify my message. So for each frame, choose how you are going to tell that story. Are you going to have a narrator? Are you going to have an interview? Are you going to have a video or a photo or a graphic? It's your group's task to choose what best can support or amplify the message of that particular frame. So in my example here, I have my text. There is this fish. I've decided to put a video there to really show a video of a fish underwater in this amazing environment. My next frame, I'm talking about the ecosystem. And so I feel that maybe a diagram would best represent and show my audience what I'm saying. And then the next frame, I'm talking about the remarkable adaptations of this fish. So I'm going to have it dissolve into a photo of this fish, a close-up. And then to end with my setup, I want to make a connection between humans and this fish. So now I'm going to have someone talking. I'm going to have the frame be all on a narrator talking about this problem. Maybe it would be two people or a group of people, but it would be people talking about this. It wouldn't be a photo. Okay, so once you have built that and you got your setup and you're happy with that, you move on to your problem and basically do that same process. In the simplest form, fish are dying, and that's due to high temperatures. This is my problem. How many frames is it going to take to tell that problem? Maybe it only needs to be 2 frames. And then how are you going to show that? And then you do the same thing for the solution and decide. So this is just sketching out exactly what frame by frame, what your story is and what you're showing to tell that story. So you don't need to be an artist at all to do this. This is a very simple, basic storyboard. It's just sketched out stick figures. That is exactly fine. You can even just put words in there, put a photo of a fish or whatever you're going to have. So, but one thing I want to point out is if you're going to make a short video, if you want a 3.5-minute video, you have to decide how much time you're spending on each frame. So in this example, if you're opening up and you're having 2 people talking, that is 30 seconds. The next one, it may just be a photo or a panning the poster session, right? If you're making it about PICES conferences, whatever that's going to be 15 seconds. And then the next frame on this third frame is 3 people talking. Right? So that's going to be about 30 seconds. So you just have to give a time frame or the time is going to get away from you. And of course, this makes you be very concise in your content, right? I just wanted to also say it's perfectly fine to just have a interview. If you decide that an interview is the best way to discuss your problem, to tell your story, that's fine. I would still do I still would do an ABT storyboard for an interview, so you can stick to the topic, so you make sure that the message is clear and concise, and that the people in the video are covering exactly what should be covered. Okay, so here is the process. You're going to have a good, solid, strong ABT. How do you do that? You work on it as a group, you get some feedback, you really analyze your ABT. So it's a good, solid ABT. And then you apply your ABT to a storyboard. You go through the process, the steps that I just talked about. You frame out each of your points and what the visuals are going to be. The next step will be you'll be collecting those visuals. If it's a graphic or a photo or a video, you have to find those. If you're going to record, right? If you're going to walk around the conference and record what's happening at the conference, if you're going to do an interview, if you're going to film someone talking, that all has to be done. And then you put that together and start editing. And fortunately, technology has made this pretty easy, and you're going to have some help to do that. And then you get feedback on your videos. What do people like? And I always encourage honest feedback. Really speak out. We want these videos to be great. And then of course the end product is really exciting for this workshop, is to end up with some great end products that Pisces can use and then share around the world. So here is your storyboard template. I suggest writing your ABT at the top of the page. It keeps you focused, keeps you honest about what your topic is, and you're sticking to it. And then you start framing out your specifics, listing your specifics, deciding what you want to say for each frame and what visual you want for each frame. And then to really complete this process, you will be working with Brian Palermo on adding what is, I feel, one of the most necessary parts of storytelling. It's how you deliver that story. It's your emotional connection. It's showing that you as a scientist care. And we can all have text that we can read, and we can all show pictures. But until we really put that connection of person and place behind our stories, that is where the true communication and connection really begins. Remember what our communication goals are. We want people to pay attention. We want people to understand. We want people to believe what we're saying, and we want them to remember what we're saying. And so putting all of these elements together into your storyboard, into your story map, this is hopefully will be your pathway to success. I'm really looking forward to seeing what your products are and wish you lots of luck. It should be lots of fun as well. So thank you very much, and good luck, everyone.